What is it that makes this such a SAI organization different from any other? There are many organizations that do beautiful service and very loving service. There are organizations that look after the children, that give them profound human values, that lead them up in society beautifully. But what is it that makes the Satya Sai organization completely unique? What is it that does that? And if we lose sight of that, then we lose sight of, what would be the word? It's much more than magic. No, it's not. It's much more than magic. It's just the pure gold that he's come to bring us. So, what is it that we need to remember? What is it that he has told us, and time again, which unfortunately we kind of hear it, and then we forget it, and we carry on with our normal lives, again and again and again and again. And I'm just reminded that each one of us, and I'm trying to communicate with each one of you. The truth about each one of you and me as well is that this is one life of thousands of lives that we've been through. And we've done this again and again and again and again and again. We've been there. We've been there. We're just so fortunate that he's come. And we're born at the time when he was here physically. And why did he even need to do that? Why did the Lord himself need to come and do that? And the simple answer is, and he puts it so beautifully, the spiritual teachings over the years have been so corrupted that they are barely recognizable from the purity and pristine condition that they were first in. And that's one of the reasons why we need to, each one of us, make sure that we connect with his teachings and try and understand his teachings, because they are not the same as what you will find everywhere else. That's why he came. They're not the same. What's the very first message that he tries to impart? And I'm just so touched because I look at his life and I look at how he, day by day, year by year, decade after decade, he tried to pass the same message on to us again and again and again and again. And he never stopped. Even though we just weren't hearing it, he just did it again and again and again and again. And what did he want us to know? Well, the very first thing he wanted us to know is he said, you all think that you're separate. You all think that you're little bodies. You're all afraid of some people and you're very happy with others. And you kind of look at the universe with a certain degree of, I'm just a little thing in this universe wandering around. And he said, that's not true. That is not true. The truth is that you are God. And that was an incredibly important message for him to convey. Now, we easily forget that. And indeed, I can remember a story that I heard which was very powerful for me. As you know, at Prashanti, Swami used to give much attention to the boys. And they would be closer to the mandir. In fact, while I was teaching at the institute, I would be amongst them, which was just an absolute delight. And on one occasion, he came to the boys all in front of him, and he asked a series of questions. And he said, do you believe in Swami? Yes, Swami, they said. Do you believe in Swami? Yes, yes, yes. Do you love Swami? Yes, we love Swami. Do you believe that Swami is God? Yes, we believe that Swami is God. Do you believe that what Swami says is truth? Yes, we believe what Swami says is truth. Then why don't you believe me when I tell you that you're God? And that actually is the situation that we find ourselves in. We find that hard to comprehend. But that actually is the truth. And the second thing he tells us, which is equally important, is that throughout this creation, there's absolutely nothing that you meet that's not you. Absolutely nothing that you meet that's not you. Now, I spoke about what is it that makes this organization so special? What is it that makes, for instance, the service that we do? Why is it different? Well, it should be different. How should it be different? We should remember that we are God, and that the person that we're serving is God too. And so we're serving ourselves. Now that's a huge, huge change. That's a difference. No other service organization does that. No other service organization approaches it like that. They always think, I'm helping somebody else. And as we feel that way, then what Swami says is, you're just reinforcing the delusion that everyone is living in. You're just reinforcing that. And he even describes, he says, I'll tell you how you think. I'll tell you what is going on in your mind. He says, this is what you think. You think that there's some mighty power out there. It's unknown to you. It's very distinctly different from you. And it's far, far away. And thinking thus, you adopt all sorts of what you call spiritual practices to try in some way become united with that. And Swami's very tough when he talks about this topic. He says that is sheer ignorance. And when I first heard those words, it jolted me. I thought, Swami, I'm trying so hard. Why do you say that that's just sheer ignorance? And he says, because you're imagining that you're separate. And if you start this from that point, you'll never reach where you want to get to. You've started from the wrong point. You must start from the point that you are God. Now you can call it Atma, he often does. In one of his discourses, you read these discourses, which I do laboriously, every day. I study these, laboriously. And then one day he said something in these discourses, and it finally clicked with me. He said, another name for Atma is just awareness. And I thought, that's right, because I am aware. And actually, everyone else is aware too. And so also are animals. And actually, he says, everything in creation is aware. And then you say, gosh, if everything's awareness, and awareness is God, perhaps that's a way of understanding that everything's God. Everything's God. Now, it's a really good thing to ponder and say, Swami, you say that I'm God, and I do believe you, though I'm trying, but perhaps I'm not doing so well. Why is it that I'm not actually experiencing that? And on one occasion, Swami came back from darshan, and he sat down in his private rooms, and he was shaking his head like this. And somebody asked him, Swami, what's wrong? And he said, they still think that there's something here which is not in them. And you could hear the frustration in his voice, saying, what do I do? What do I do to convince them that there's nothing here, and this is Swami, there's nothing here that's not in there. They're always looking at me as if there's something different. Now, you say, well, Swami, you're able to do amazing things, and I'm not. And he says, well, yes. And of course the next question is, why? And he gives us a very simple answer. He says, the sole reason is, my mind is pure, yours is not. Your task, purify the mind. Quite simple, purify the mind. The very first thing he says that you must do, very first thing he says, is stop believing that you are this body. Stop believing that you are this body, because you are not the body. And he makes it, says, how can you be the body? You can see it. How can you be this body? Why do you keep on thinking that you're the body when you can see it? Can't be the body. The next question is, so who are you? And indeed that's one of the questions that he wants us to ponder and continually ask ourselves. As we go about our day, ask yourself quietly, who am I? Because I'm not the body. Am I this mind? Gosh, I hope not. Swami looked at me one day amongst all the students and he said, sometimes screw loose. Now, if you understand that from a mechanical standpoint, it wasn't complimentary, by the way. Screw loose means, this machinery doesn't work very well sometimes. Absolutely true. Are you the mind? The answer is no. How could you be the mind? Why? Because you can see it. You can observe it. And then he comes back and he says, so what really are you? And the answer is, you are that awareness that watches all of it and is untainted by all of it. Never gets tainted by it, watches it, and he says that's Atma. But of course we have to play in this drama, the drama of life. But we need to keep on reminding ourselves, who am I? I'm God and nothing else. What is everything around me, including, he says, this, and he says even the mosquito. Do you realize the mosquito's God too? So there's nothing that we see around us that's not us. Now that makes a big difference, because now, as he says, there's nothing other than you, and there's nothing higher than you anywhere. Nothing other than you, nothing higher than you. Now if we go about our work in the community with that in mind, that's a big difference. That's a big difference. Sai Ram.